So good day everyone. This is the next topic for ES19 or Technopreneurship 101 for engineers, which I will discuss about ethics, social responsibility, and globalization. So we will focus on especially on social responsibility with SDGs or the Sustainable Development Goals. So just a quick recap, what we discussed before was the introduction to design thinking process. And when we define design thinking, this is understanding the target audience in order to come up with a final idea or solution. So what um, I discussed last time about design thinking is about its concept, the parts of the design thinking process, which are the inspiration, ideation, and implementation, then also the design thinking framework. So, according to Tim Brown, who is the chair of IDEO, he quoted that design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation and to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So IDEO is actually a design and consulting firm that uses the design thinking approach to design products, services, environments, and digital experiences. So as shown here, here is a Venn diagram that shows the overlapping of three circles that forms the innovation. And innovation requires design thinking. So innovation happens where all of these three circles overlap. And this common ground shows where the product is a win when viewed from all three perspectives described in the Venn diagram. This serves and provides three excellent lenses to see if your innovation will be successful. So it uses the three lenses to define the very nature of design thinking. So one of the most often used frameworks for determining and defining a new value proposition is a model for positioning experiences is a circular Venn diagram with the desirability, feasibility, and viability as main pillars. So let us discuss each of the circles here in the Venn diagram. First is the desirability. So desirability, that is what do customers wants. This is more on the human aspect, and this is human centric for innovation of new products. And since desirability is human centric, design is user centric and starts with people. This understand the root of the problem you are solving, context of what interaction, and where the possible gap is. The next is feasibility. This is more on the technical aspect. So this is how can the experience be realized. This is the technical and process wise. And for the desirability being human centric, feasibility is more on technology centric to determine if technology is feasible for betterment of services. So it is often focused on technology, and it look at the customer experience in context and investigate what needs to be true for implementing a smooth experience. And the last here in our Venn diagram is viability. This is how are we going to make money or cut costs. So if you when we do business, what we actually do is what we experience rather is that we do or we experience gains and losses. So viability is business centric to determine if there is a real market, and it measuring success and demonstrating return of investment or ROI is key to proving to the business that it is worth investing into your product. So it is defining clear metrics to validate your unique value proposition. And talking about value proposition, these are marketing strategy of informing customers about how one's own brand or product is superior to its competitors. So here are some guide questions of each of the circles that forms the Venn diagram. For the desirability, which is human-centric, what need, desire, or problem does this feature address? Where does this fit in a user's journey through through the product experience, and how does it change it? Is there a need we haven't identified that this approach doesn't meet? And is it possible that users don't want or need this? Will users think about this from a different perspective? What will users be doing when this release is ready? And how is that likely to affect the release? And who will be the naysayers on this decision and why? And for the feasibility, which is technology centric, these are some guide questions. Is there a change we could make to better align with tools we are using? Will this be technically challenging to accomplish? Is this comparable to something else we have built or that someone else has built? And lastly, for the viability, which is business centric, will this take too long to build? Is it possible that this could affect the business model? What will the business be doing when this release is ready? And does this change the equation of how value flows in the business ecosystem? So in the Venn diagram, um, we have the inspiration, ideation, and implementation. So the three forms or the three meet to form the innovation. We also discussed about design thinking framework before. So it consists of empathize. Um, we have also define, ideate, prototype, and test. Now let us proceed on the Sustainable Development Goals. So these are actually the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or UN SDG. So when we define sustainability, this is meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And when we talk about sustainable development, it is the pathway to sustainability. So talking about United Nations is actually comprises of 193 countries that are member states, and there are also two countries that are non-member observer states. So these two countries that are considered as non-member observer states are the Holy See, so this is the Vatican City, and the State of Palestine. So the United Nations is an international organization founded in 1945, and the mission and work of the United Nations are guided by the purposes and principles contained in its founding charter. So the UN aims to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, to establish conditions under which justice and respect for the obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained, and to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. So before I show you the all United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, let me ask you this question. What is your ideal world? In the present day, we are actually currently experiencing the pandemic. And we always think that what will be our ideal world? So the possible answer for this question, what is your ideal world, is that equal opportunities to everyone. Why? Because at least all of us, maybe um, any nationality or to any parts of the world, it's better that for us to achieve of a world of a peaceful world, or um, without experiencing any conflicts between any countries, it's better that all people have equal opportunities. So these are the 17 sustainable development goals. So the sustainable development goals are a call for action by all countries, it may be poor, rich, and middle income, to promote prosperity while protecting the planet. So they recognize that ending poverty must go hand in hand with strategies that build economic growth and address a range of social needs, including education, health, social protection, and job opportunities, while tackling climate change and environmental protection. So this is adopted by all the United Nations member states in 2015. So take note, there are 193 member states. Currently, there are 193 member states um, currently in the Organization for the United Nations. And the universal call, it is a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. So just imagine we have still like 9 years from now for us to end poverty, to protect to protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. And everyone is needed to reach these ambitious targets. And creativity, know-how, technology, and financial resources from all of society is necessary to achieve the SDGs in every context. So here are the all 17 UN SDG, or the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So the first one is no poverty. Second is zero hunger. Third is on the good health and well-being. Fourth is the quality education. Fifth is gender equality. Sixth is clean water and sanitation. Seventh SDG is the affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities. We have also sustainable cities and communities. 12 is responsible consumption and production. 13 is about the climate action, which is more on the climate change. 14th is the life below water, that is more on the marine life. 15 is life on land. 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions. And lastly, the last UN SDG is partnerships for the goals. So here are the 17 UN SDG that you can use to formulate your problem. And why the UN formulate this 17 UN SDG? Because of this one statement: leave no one leave no one behind. It means that no man must left behind, and countries must, or the countries, all the member states have committed to fast track progress for those furthest behind first. So talking about the pandemic that we are still experiencing until now, the UN report finds COVID-19 is reversing decades of progress on poverty, healthcare, and education. So, because of the pandemic, the roadmap for humanity could be changed by a pandemic, and uh, presents the pandemic presents both an enormous challenge and tremendous opportunities for reaching the 2030 agenda and the SDG. So this year, or the last year that we have experienced, they have received a uh, grievous blow, one that will be far reaching for years to come. But instead of thinking negatively about what is happening right now, we need to think positive. Be optimistic. Even if we have reversed back it is still okay, since we have now the power and chance to start from almost scratch. So this is when social entrepreneurship comes in. So let us talk about social entrepreneurship. So when we talk about social entrepreneurship, it is the process of recognizing and resourcefully pursuing opportunities to create social value. So social entrepreneurs, these are people who are innovative, resourceful, and results oriented, and draw upon the best thinking in both the business and nonprofit worlds to develop strategies that maximize their social impact. It operates in all kinds of organization. It may be a large and small, new and old. It may be in the religious and secular sector, a non-profit, a profit, or even a hybrid. So since our subject is named as technopreneurship, so we have actually social technopreneurship. So social technopreneurship is um, entrepreneurship through technology serving a social cause, and you can be both you can be both a technopreneur and at the same time a social entrepreneur. So that's why we have social technopreneurship. So we have a quote from David Bornstein, who is a journalist and author who specializes in writing about social innovation using a style called solutions journalism. So he has written 3 books on social entrepreneurship, and he quoted, "What business entrepreneurs are to economy, social entrepreneurs are to social change. They are the driven, creative individuals who question the status quo, exploit new opportunities, refuse to give up, and remake the world for the better." Here on the next slide, as shown here, this is another Venn diagram. This is the sustainability diagram. And this represent the 3 pillars and their interconnectedness. This presents the idea that sustainable development can be achieved when economic development is conducted in a manner that preserves and protects the environment and its resources while supporting individual and community well-being. So when the concepts contained in the 3 spheres of sustainability are applied to real-world situations, everybody wins. So basically, nearly everything we do or plan to do has an effect on the sustainability of the human race. So to achieve true sustainability, we need to balance economic, social, and environmental sustainability factors in equal harmony. So let us talk about of the um, each part here in the Venn diagram. First is the environment. So this is conserving and protecting natural ecosystems and resources. So for the environmental sustainability, in a truly sustainable environment, an ecosystem would maintain populations, biodiversity, and overall functionality over an extended period of time. So ideally, decisions that are made should promote equilibrium within our natural systems and seek to encourage positive growth. So we are living within the means of our natural resources. The next one is more on the economy. So this is supporting equitable economic development opportunities. So for an economic sustainability, this involves creating economic value out of whatever project or decision you are undertaking. Decisions are made in the most reasonable and financially sound way possible while considering the other aspects of sustainability. Projects and decisions must be made with the long term benefits in mind rather than just the short term benefits. And it requires that a business or country uses its resources efficiently and responsibly so that it can operate in a sustainable manner to consistently produce an operational profit. So without an operational profit, a business cannot sustain its activities. And without acting responsibly and using its resources efficiently, a company will not be will not be able to sustain its activities in the long term. And lastly, we have the people and place. This is more on the social aspect. This is delivering adaptable, accessible, and connected places for people. So, talking about social sustainability, this is based on the concept that a decision or project promotes the betterment of society. So, in general, future generations should have the same or greater quality of life benefits as the current generation do. It, it encompasses many things such as human rights, environmental law, and public involvement and participation. And it is the ability of society or any social system to persistently achieve a good social well-being. So taking this three pillars of three pillars of taking these three pillars of sustainability further, if we only achieve two out of the three pillars, then we end up with the following. So if we combine social and economic sustainability, this one, we have equitable. And when we say equitable, that is the fair and impartial. And when we talk about equitable sustainability, it is the fairness and distribution of economic wealth, tax, tax liability, resources, and assets in a society. On the other hand, if we combine social and environmental, that is livable, sorry for that, that is livable or what we call bearable. So bearable means it is capable of being endured or tolerated. And when we say bearable sustainability, it is a society that works towards lifestyle adjustment. And lastly, if we combine economic and environmental sustainability, we have viable. So when we say viable, it is the capable of working successfully and being practical. And when we say viable sustainability, it ensures standards are maintained in terms of safety, performance, and product innovation while limiting the environmental impact of products. So when the three circles overlap, so we will achieve the sustainability or being sustainable. So the scale, scope, and complexity of the economic and social transformation to come will be such that no one sector, maybe government, business, civil society, or academia, will be able to manage the transformation alone. So the alliances that bring different sectors together are needed if we are to overcome its challenges. So it is essential to achieving the scale and sustained impact we need to see, and these partnerships can unleash innovative ways of working, mobilizing expertise and hard to reach resources and create shared accountability in an increasingly complex world. So that's why um, I, when we achieve to achieve a sustainable society, it is through collaboration, especially with the social impact, and each sector has a valuable role to play, but it is in collaboration that real transformation comes. Interdependencies between sectors become more pronounced, yet the complexities increase. The sectors need to become better able to find common ground. And the different sectors should be open minded about working together, not afraid to take risks to collaborate in new ways, and to ensure the lessons of these partnership models, may be good and bad, are shared widely. So let us differentiate or separate unicorns from zebras from unicorns, separating zebras from unicorns. So this is a look at what makes one company mythical, that is represented by a unicorn, while another just has stripes, which are represented by a zebra. So a unicorn, these are companies valued over 1 billion pesos that focus on earnings, and some examples are Google and Uber. They are mythical or rare. And Zebra, their purpose of startup should complement its profit and run startup with an impact or is sustainable. So when you say impact, that is done through collaboration with society, economy, and environment. And when we talk about sustainable, that is long term. So here, we have actually the why. So for the purpose, unicorn is more on exponential growth. Zebra is sustainable prosperity. For the end game, we have exit, liquidity event, that is 10 times. And for the zebra is profitable and sustainable, that is 2 times. The how, in terms of the worldview, unicorn is more on the zero sum. It's more on the winners and losers. But for the zebra, it is a win-win situation. For the style, unicorn companies that are unicorn are assertive, and for the zebra, they are participatory. For the who, the beneficiary, for the unicorn, these are private individuals and shareholders, while the zebras, their beneficiary are more on the public or communities. The monetization, eyeballs on a page, and for the zebra, this more on the consumer pays for service or product, which are transparent. And for the what, um, for the growth direction, for the company that are unicorn, these are hockey stick, and for the zebra, generative growth. And lastly, for metric, unicorn companies that are unicorn are more on the quantitative or more on the quantity, and for the zebra is more on the quality. So that's why we need to break away from the mirage of unicorns and look to combine a strong formula blending purpose with profit so that we can build a sustainable social impact. So this is more than simply doing the right thing, and about caring for employees, prioritizing environmental and social impact, and standing for a cause. So that's why for a social impact enterprise, it must be purpose above profit. So when we talk about social impact enterprise, these are business that has a specific social and or environmental objectives serving as its primary purpose. So on the next slides, I will show you some examples of social impact enterprise or some businesses that are considered as social impact enterprise. For the environmental, we have SIP and Bambite. SIP is a Filipino enterprise that champions waste management solutions for the people and the planet. So, the last straw aims to reduce plastic straw waste, and it makes students, residents, and business owners more aware of the harms of plastic waste and encourage them to take concrete steps with this social impact enterprise. And it has also an inclined or an aligned SDG. This is aligned with number 12, which is responsible consumption and production, and number 14, which is life below water. For Bambike is a socio-ecological enterprise that is based in the Philippines that hand bakes bicycles with fair trade labor and sustainable building practices. The programs that include scholarships, sponsoring a preschool teacher, and a weekly feeding program for children, as well as a bamboo nursery for reforestation. So they have what we call bamboo bike builders, aka bam builders, that came from that come from the Gawad Kalinga. And we all know that Gawad Kalinga is a Philippine poverty alleviation and nation building movement known officially as Gawad Kalinga Community Development Foundation. So its mission is to end poverty for 5 million families by 2024. And the aligned SDG of Bambike are zero hunger, quality education, decent work and economic growth, responsible consumption and production, climate action, and life on land. We have also persons with disability. So these are some examples of social impact enterprise. So the first one is the Happy Project. Its goal is spreading positivity through inspirational statements, and they have come up with multi-purpose pouches that were designed to inspire and share happiness. Pouches are skillfully made by the person with disability workforce of the SWT, and they work hand in hand with the rehabilitation sheltered workshop of the government's DSWD. And each purchase gives hope and empowerment to the differently abled community behind each and every product they create. And the aligned SDG are good health and well-being, and also decent work and economic growth, and also reduced inequalities. We have also Virtual Lahan. This is a virtual school for persons with disabilities to develop skills and mindset to become competitive employees and entrepreneurs using equalizing power of technology. It designed a cost-effective and transferable social technology that allows socially excluded um, populations to access work in the global digital economy. So it is the first Filipino company to win the Google Business Group Stories Award and was showcased at the Google I/O in 2017. And the aligned SDG for the virtual lahan are good health and well-being, quality education, decent work and economic growth, and lastly, reduced inequalities. We have also for health, we have Squeaky Clean Kids. So this creates high quality artisanal artisanal soaps out of organic materials with the goal of creating healthy communities around the Philippines. And for every soap purchased, one gets donated to a child in a low income community. This promotes proper sanitation, recycling unused soap, generation of livelihoods in underserved communities. And it is founded by actually three doctors who have seen hundreds of consistently sick children from underprivileged families in underserved communities all over the country. So the aligned SDG here are no poverty, good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, decent work and economic growth, reduce inequalities, responsible consumption and production. We have also Soportal rather. Soportal is formerly known as Listen Here. This provides affordable and accessible mental health services to the Philippines by Filipino psychologists, and it is dedicated towards eliminating the stigma around mental health through connection and community building. They have trained volunteers who are available to talk via an instant chat on their website, as well as community ambassadors throughout the Philippines who host in-person events and workshops about all things related to mental health. So they also connect individuals with licensed mental health providers that are able to meet virtually via chat or over the phone, and they are building an accessible, inclusive, and holistic support system for people with mental health. So the aligned SDG for Supportal are good health and well-being and reduce inequalities. Lastly, we have for livelihood, we have Gourmet Queso. This offers livelihood opportunities by rehabilitating local communities at a center for social innovation in the Philippines, and now produces award-winning cheese. It understated Philippine cheese has been transformed to has been to gourmet standards through the skillful hands of local mothers and dairy farmers from the enchanted farm of Gawad Kalinga in Angat, Bulacan. And the aligned SDG for the gourmet queso are no poverty, equality, decent work and economic growth, reduce inequalities, and responsible consumption and production. And lastly, we have Guerrilla Bags and Co. and Corporation. Their primary mission is to help improve rice farmers' income through building with them sustainable, lucrative enterprises in between planting and harvesting seasons. These produce bags from local materials like weaves from Ilocos, Kalinga, um, Baguio, and indigenous fibers as abaca, pineapple, and other fibers that is promoting Filipino heritage and culture through every bags they design. This is functional modern bags made by rice farmers and hand woven by Nagbakalan weavers from Ilocos. And every bag is an amazing story. So the aligned SDG here are no poverty, decent work and economic growth, reduce inequalities, responsible consumption and production. Since you knew already some examples of the social impact enterprise, your task is actually to find a problem and solve it. So um, you need to formulate a problem which are aligned or inclined to the 17 UN SDG. And how do you start? You need to think big and start small. Thinking big, that is, expand your ideas and understand today and dream up tomorrow. And starting small, break the idea down into smaller pieces for testing. And some common mistake for formulating problem is you start too big. Because when you think big, envision the future, generate ideas, and validate the problems. And when you start small, you create a staged roadmap, focus on users' problems and solutions, and validate your solutions. So you start solving problems for 3 people, then 30, then 300, then 300 million. Also, be inspired but do not copy. Inspiration means the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially creative, and gaining motivation. But if you do copy, it is an imitation or reproduction of an original. This is mindlessly duplicating. So, before I proceed on your next assessment task, this is the what what they call ikigai. This is actually a westernized version of the ikigai, and ikigai is a Japanese concept that means a reason for being or finding purpose in life. Because we all want to be happy, but most of us have no idea what we want to do. So this ikigai, this another Venn diagram is only a guide, and it may help in starting to look for a business idea. So this ikigai, the westernized version of ikigai, is based on the idea that there are four components one needs to complete in order to achieve ikigai. So it composed of the four questions. The first one is what you love. You just only list down what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for. It doesn't mean that even though you're not working, in the future, what is your future job, and what do you want in your future job that you can get paid for. And very difficult question that you need to answer is what the world needs. And afterwards, once you list down your answer to the four questions, you need to identify the common in each question, and there you can identify your ikigai. And also, the passion here in the Venn diagram, the passion, mission, vocation, and profession meet. So this is your assignment, your next assignment. What you need to do, you need to find a problem you are interested in solving, and problem must be aligned or inclined to the UN SDG. So just review the 17 UN SDG as mentioned before. It could be you can focus on one SDG or two or more SDGs, and some questions that you can answer that you will answer are who is your target audience and what questions do you want to ask them. So you list down 10 questions, and for your questions, start with simple questions. Get to know your interviewee. Avoid questions that can be answered by yes or no. Instead, use or list down questions that are open-ended. Example is that, how was your experience? Avoid generalities and focus on specifics. So, just example is, tell me about the last time you use this specific product. So do not create a or formulate a question that can be answered by yes or no. It must be an open-ended questions. So just a final reminders, individual quiz via Moodle. The topics are Introduction to Technopreneurship and Introduction to Design Thinking, and it will be scheduled on March 26, 2021, Friday, and the quiz will be open at 6 a.m. and it will close at 6 p.m. There will be no class on ES19 for ES19 on March 29 to April 2, that is next week. And the deadline of the assignment will be on next week, Wednesday, March 31 at 11:59 p.m. So that will be all about the social responsibility with SDG or Sustainable Development Goals. The next time that we will meet for our synchronous class is we will tackle about Introduction to Intellectual Property, which will be in a form of a webinar. So stay tuned for the announcement for our next lecture. So that will be all. So thank you everyone for joining this lecture.